Happy New Year! And to be honest, there's only one way we can start 2025. With an apology. Look, I'm sorry, okay? The title of this video is a bit misleading. Only a bit. Because you see, yes, this video is partly 7 teams who were ruined by one player, but there were also a couple of entries where it's 7 teams who are weakened by one position. But you know, just doesn't have the saying ring, does it? So, apologies once again, kids, and for the sake of playing the old YouTube, 7 players who ruined great teams. Here's the criteria from yesterday. Just work it, flip it, reverse it, and it'll be worth it. Let's roll on. Number 7, James Rodriguez, Real Madrid 2014. The peak nonsense of the second Galacticos era, the summer of 2014 saw Real Madrid, a side who destroyed both cup competitions the previous season and were very unlucky to not walk away with the treble, make a couple of new high-profile acquisitions for close to absolutely no reason. This involved the deep-lying sprayer in Xabi Alonso being replaced by a younger deep-lying sprayer in Toni Kroos, which is fair enough, but then an energetic dribbler in Angel Di Maria who tends to drift wide when Bale and or Ronaldo tuck in, was replaced by James Rodriguez, a number 10 in the purest form of the term. This disrupted the balance of the team, and despite a decent start and James doing well for himself, it all began to fall apart around January time, and as a result, Real went empty-handed in the big 3 competitions. Number 6, Diego Costa, Spain 2014. Right, so I ain't no genius, don't know if you could tell, but even I could have told you that a traditional centre forward who spent the last half decade or so playing in a defensive setup, enjoys the physical battle, well, as long as there are referees around to stop him from getting tucked in, feeds off the space to run in behind and enjoys being focal point of attacks, would not work in a side that has spent the previous half decade or so dominating international football, mainly without a focal point. But nope, the alleged 25-year-old at the time decided to switch his allegiance from his country of origin in Brazil to his country of residence in Spain, and do so just a few months before Brazil were preparing to host the 2014 World Cup. And surprise, surprise, this further fumbled the formalities and fundamentals of the already frail and failing fortunes of the once feared force who were favourites throughout world football, as Costa failed to score for them until his 10th game or whatever, a run of games which included 2 in that World Cup in Brazil where, if we're being nice, he was anonymous at best for most parts. Well done, lad. And you know what's ironic? You know who actually could have made good use of his service that summer? Number 5, Fred, Brazil 2014. Christ, that was not a good year for South American footballers, was it? It was not. Right, so let's get something straight. Never mind Fred, even the second coming of the love child of Garrincha and Ronaldinho couldn't have saved Brazil from whatever the fuck happened here. But you see, because that game left such a long-lasting impression, people seem to think that the entire Brazilian team that summer were a shambles. That's not really the case. Go back and look at the lineup. Bro, that is a solid team, but maybe a couple of options up front. Bro, it was obvious from the get-go in that tournament that Brazil were heavily lacking someone up front who can accompany Neymar. And well, I don't know how else to put it, but Fred just wasn't that guy. And this obviously isn't all his fault, but on the surface, managing just 5 shots in 6 games, including doing almost literally nothing in that Germany game where the majority of his touches came from kickoff from the German goals. I'm not making that up, by the way. Yeah, they really could have done with an upgrade. No disrespect. Number 4, Loris Karius, Liverpool 2018. Well, there doesn't really need to be much theorizing with this one. Just look at what they want to do the following 2 seasons. Proof is in the pudding. And no, I'm not just basing this entry on Karius' double disaster in the Champions League final against Madrid that year. And in all fairness, if he was actually concussed, you can't fully blame him for that. But what many of you may forget is that there were questions about this guy's capabilities at the top level, not just way before that game, but way before that season. But during that season, had it not been for a Liverpool side who were the second highest goal scorers in the Premier League, only behind Pep Centurions, and by a landslide the highest scoring team in the Champions League where they destroyed some big sides along the way, that includes Pep Centurions, Karius would have been dropped far sooner than he actually was, in my opinion. Cue his goal-costing moment in the quarters, his Butterfingers moment in the first leg of the semis, and his near double disaster in the second leg of the semis where he could have, and according to some, should have been sent off. Guess it's proof you can't have everything in life. Number 3, Danilo, Real Madrid 2017. The first example that jumped out of my mind when I thought of this video, and you know what, forget what I said about the misleading title or whatever for a second. second. Whenever Danilo came on, this guy actually ruined a great team. And yeah, I get it. Saying that about a team who did the league and European double may sound crazy, but did you know that Real Madrid have never won the treble in their entire history? Well, now you do. And outside the scary good La Decima side who were undone by CR7's knee problems, the 2016-2017 season was the best chance they had. The problem? Well, for some reason, Danilo's performances in the previous year's UCL quarter-final and final wasn't enough to convince Zizou to invest in a backup right back. So that by default meant that he was the one who was playing the Copa del Rey games that year. And no joke, whenever he played for Real that to be fair, both of his seasons, you just knew, you just felt a mistake was around the corner. And after doing his best to stop the hunt for the treble with an own goal against Sevilla in the last 16 of the Copa, Danilo succeeded in his quest with another own goal in the next round against Celta Vigo, a goal which ultimately cost them the game, and given that they would have come up against Alaves had they gotten through, most probably a maiden treble. Number 2, the English national team. Whoever the fuck was playing on the left, whenever the fuck they played throughout the 90s and 2000s. Fucking frustrating this. So yes, despite not even being born here, not to mention having skin darker than Jimmy Carr's humor, I grew up a die-hard England fan. The very first football match I watched was Argentina versus England at the 2002 World Cup, and the very first tournament I watched from start to finish was Euro 2004. And right from there, and well, now that I've got back and researched it, about a decade or even before that, left mid was the one position we've always really lacked in. And unfortunately, not too many of our managers back then had the continental mindset of a Glenn Hoddle to divert away from the flat 4-4-2. So what we instead got is the entry requirements to play that role being reduced to something like must have all 5 toes on left foot. And no matter who it was that was put out there, they fell short in one or more ways or another. Does that make sense? Do I give a shit? This entry is a bunch of shit anyway. Nick Bombi wasn't on the level, Trevor Sinclair wasn't on the level, Wayne Bridge lacked attacking instincts, Steven Gerrard lacked positional discipline, Owen Hargreaves lacked fitness, Paul Scholes lacked pace, and probably all 5 toes. And even someone like Joe Cole, who about 10 years later would have been perfect for that role, for what was demanded of a left mid at the time as far as getting to the byline and whipping in mostly outswingers, that just wasn't his game. And don't get me wrong, man, I mentioned this briefly, but yes, there is a legit argument of us just being way behind in time, and we were actually better off changing the system rather than keep looking for a perfect left mid. But for what the team was, it was crystal clear where the issues lay. Number 1, McFred, Manchester United 2022. And we basically finished with a double bill of position, not player. And no joke, never have I ever seen a team screaming so hard for a certain profile of player to basically turn them from being a bang average team damn near mid-table to genuine title contenders, if not favourites. No exaggeration. Manchester United under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had everything elsewhere. A world-class goalkeeper, a world-class centre-back, offensively talented fullbacks, defensively talented fullbacks, a world-class midfielder, a world-class winger, a world-class centre-forward, and still at the time, arguably the best player in the world, regardless of position. Not to mention dangerous youngsters on the bench even beyond that. Some dangerous in more ways than one. They just needed someone to glue it all together. A true controller of the game. And look, I used McFred's name because those are the guys who were given that role most often, sometimes even together, but it should really be whoever played that role that season. Well, apart from Matic, but it was clear that he didn't have the legs for the Premier League anymore. And I've said it before, even in this video, I'll say it again, and I'll always stick by this. Had this United team fielded a player like a younger Matic, or dare I even say Casemiro, they'd have been title contenders at the bare minimum. Casemiro coming in would have freed up Pogba, something they've been trying to do for years, and bro, this attack would have been a problem for any team in Europe. Sadly for United fans though, as you guys know, things didn't quite unfold that way. And in reality, by the time Casemiro arrived, Oli was long gone, Cavani and Pogba had just gone, with CR7 and Sancho soon following suit. And the rest, my friends, is far from history, because this bullshit is still going on as we speak. And it's probably even worse now. God help this lot. And that is that. Agree or disagree? Beats indifference. So what do you think of this list? Are there any other teams ruined by one player and or weakness in one position that I've missed out? Let me know in the comments below. And as usual, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Till next time, you keep rolling.